I'm Kendra Manuel. I identify as Chinese American and I'm from Clackamas, Oregon.
Hi, my name is Youngren-Brown. I am a Chinese American adoptee.
Hi, my name is Sarah Liang, and I'm a second-generation Chinese immigrant, and I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois.
Hi, my name is Maggie, and I am a Chinese American adoptee.
Hi, I'm Lexi. I'm a fourth generation Japanese American from Oahu, Hawaii.
Hi everyone, my name is Bailey Urim-Steinbach. I am a Korean adoptee. Currently, I reside in Portland, Oregon. This fall, I will be moving to Seoul, South Korea, and I use she, her pronouns.
Asian girls are really meek. Asian girls are all super docile. Asian girls will make the perfect wives.
We're submissive, we're exotic.
We look younger than we are.
We are quiet, we're submissive, we're docile.
A really gross one that I heard, and someone actually asked me once, is that our vaginas are smaller, that we act like anime characters.
They expect us to be cute and kind of childish in a sense. At the same time, if you are an Asian woman, you are expected to be sexual and you are expected to satisfy men's desires.
Asian girls are really into Jewish guys. Asian girls are really into black guys.
Asian women are stereotyped to be easier to control, easier to get laid with. Some Asian women are stereotyped as being prostitutes, specifically those who work in the service industry or at spas or salons or massage parlors. There's a quote from the book On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous by Vietnamese American author and poet Ocean Vuong, and it is, sometimes you are erased before you are given the choice of stating who you are. I feel like this very accurately sums up the Asian American experience, but particularly the experience of Asian and Asian American women in the United States. Because when you are an Asian woman in the United States, it's hard to be your own person because you have so many people telling you what you are to them, what you should be like. You have all these expectations to be the perfect idea of an Asian woman in someone else's mind. You don't get to define that for yourself. All the representations that have been defined, like of Asian women, they weren't written for you, or they weren't written with you in mind. They weren't written by people who look like you. So you just go through life trying to figure out who you are, but also, sometimes trying to conform or not conform to what other people tell you are. I think people expect Asian women to be small and petite and quiet, accommodating, honestly. I don't think people expect Asian women to necessarily be argumentative.
I think growing up on Oahu, actually just in Hawaii in general, the Asian American community is probably the largest in any other state. We're not the minority here, we're the majority. And it's often that's not like we're not really told to fit into a certain mold, but I think because there's so many that are all the same, it's like, oh, well, of course you're gonna be smart, you're gonna excel in school because you're Asian, or oh, of course you're gonna dress this certain way because all of them do. Well, like, oh, well, it makes sense why you're tiny when you go up to the mainland because you're Asian. They expect us to be small and kind of like adorable little packages, I think. We can't be loud, we're not supposed to bring attention to ourselves, things like that. I think that also kind of falls into like what people expect when they see an Asian woman. They don't expect me to like open my mouth and express my opinion that might be different from everybody else's because, well, Asian women aren't supposed to be like that.
Some expectations people have for Asian women is that we're quiet, submissive people, that we have to be super smart and successful, such as the model minority myth, but we never lead or have leadership positions.
There are always these concepts and assumptions that Asian women are going to grow up to be caretakers, are going to grow up and be mothers, they're going to be wives, they're going to be submissive, subservient, and docile lover. And to me, that has always been something that I've been extremely fearful of, especially because I am someone who wants to find love in life and find a partner who is special to me, but there is always an echo in the back of my mind about whether or not the attraction is genuine or whether or not the person has ulterior motives. And I think one of the biggest expectations is that Asian women are capable of doing so much, being fierce, being strong women, and as soon as they find a man, they become nothing. They become an accessory to that man.
I think I feel pressured to live up to the expectations of the model minority for sure. I think the societal pressures causes me to put pressures on myself, so that's something I do to myself. I also think my parents enforced this model minority concept on me. They would always joke that whenever I got a B that I wasn't really Asian, that felt really invalidating. I also feel a really unhealthy need to compare myself to other Asian women. I can't tell if that's an internalized misogynistic value that causes me to compete with other women, but I do notice this more with other Asian women, and I haven't really figured out why, but I think it's because growing up I didn't have a lot of other Asian friends to compare to, and if I did, I felt myself, because we were so similar, that we had to compete with each other. And I often felt threatened by the success of other Asian women instead of encouraged, and I think that is further perpetuated by internalized misogynistic values to pit women against each other, and that's definitely something I'm trying to change.
I don't know if I would say I feel pressured to live up to that. I definitely feel that there's these expectations that, oh, I need to act a certain way, I should speak a certain way, I should, carry myself the way I walk, the people I surround myself with, but I don't feel like I need to live up to that, it's hard. I think a lot of the time I hold myself to my own expectations and not to what other people think, so I think that's a personal thing. I'm sure other Asian women would have a different experience with those kinds of expectations. So, I feel that pressure to be like this perfect, almost like those perfect China dolls, but nah, I'm gonna be who I am, whether it's accepted or not, I think.
If any non-Asian person ever says to me like, oh, I love K-pop, I love anime, I'm like, nope, I don't want you, because the likelihood of then you bringing those interests into the relationship and making me then play a role that you want to see executed, the likelihood is so high, and it's scary, because I want to live the way that I want to live, and that is not defined by my race. That's not defined by the fact that I'm an Asian woman. I want to live my life because it's what I want to do, because I want to be bold, because I want to be brave, and because I want to have goals and dreams.
When I was younger, I felt pressured to live up to expectations of Asian women. And that was partially because I saw it as a way of acceptance. I saw it as a way of being accepted by my white peers. I thought if I was just the correct type of Asian woman that people expected me to be or wanted me to be, then I would be accepted. And this was not only in my, platonic relationships, but also my romantic ones as well. And it was really damaging. Letting people play colonizer with me. I was being what they wanted me to be. and I hated myself for it. But I didn't know who I was, because how are you supposed to find out who you are when no one is telling you that you are allowed to do that? When no one expects that of you? Now I don't feel pressure to live up to people's expectations of me as an Asian woman, because I've done a lot of work to find out who I am, to find out what I stand for. And it was definitely hard, and even some days I catch myself and I think, oh, I can't say that, like I can't speak Chinese in public, or I can't wear Chinese clothing or something that makes me look more Asian, because I don't want to draw attention to the fact that I'm an Asian woman, because I'm afraid of how that might lead people to talk to me or treat me or think about me. And it makes me uncomfortable knowing that no matter what I do, it's gonna happen anyway. That's the really hard part is, and I've realized this now, like this is why I don't necessarily let my life be dictated by other people's expectations of me as an Asian woman, is because people are gonna have expectations of me as an Asian woman. They're gonna fetishize me, whether I want it or not. Fetishization is pretty much always involuntary. Like people will do it and you have no control over it. And that's one of the scariest things. Who you are is taken away from you. Everything that makes you you, how you think, how you act, your body, is taken away from you. And that's really difficult. And it's gonna happen whether I want it to or not. My kind of way of thinking is I might as well just do whatever the hell I want. The pressure to conform to those stereotypes comes mostly from white people in my experience. Mostly from white men. Because they want me to be this China doll. And they don't really care what I want. If they're fetishizing me, they don't care if I don't want to be fetishized. They don't care if I don't want to be a certain way. That's what they were looking for, and that's what they want, and that's all they see me as. I'm not seen as a person. I'm not valued or respected as a person. I'm seen as an object or a thing.
In all honesty, I feel like for a very long time, based on what I had seen in media, which was the extreme spectrum of shy, meek, bookworm Asian girl who's awkward, can't talk to boys, versus the extremely promiscuous, constantly sucking on a lollipop, hair in pigtails, juicy couture, jacket zipped down so you could see her boobs. That was the representation that I grew up with, especially living in the United States and being exposed to film early. And so for me, growing up with expectations, it wasn't so much pressure to live up to them, it was always pressure to try and combat that or show who I was, or really try and bring out my own personality, my own identity. But also with a lack of those resources, a lack of true representation or authentic representation, I didn't know how to do that. I just knew all of the things I didn't want to be seen as. And so when you're constantly in a situation of survival where you are trying to shut people out and control things, you go through an experience where you can't trust that anyone else has the ability to know you or truthfully and genuinely enjoy you as a person. And it's so isolating, it's so scary, but it's something that specifically Asian women go through all the time, because we are always seen in a certain light, in a certain way that we never had the chance to negate. We never had a chance to argue. It's in everything, and it's in everyone's intrinsic bias, and we have to be the ones who carry that weight, even though it's someone else's point of view.
Fetishization has definitely affected my relationship with my identity and value, for sure. I did definitely feel that I would never be pretty as white girls growing up, or that I would only be valued for my racial identity to satisfy men's yellow fever. It's also affected my relationship with wanting to wear traditional Chinese clothing, such as cheap house, because it's been so appropriated or sexualized for costumes that I felt that it really changed the meaning for the cheap how for me.
Being an Asian woman, I feel violated every single day about what is expected of me, what can be associated with me, searched, Googled. I'm sorry, I'm getting pretty emotional just thinking about the way that I've been violated because of the way I look and the lack of genuine connection that I am unable to make because of the way I look, and the constant fear that the way I look is the only reason someone might be interested in me. Or the way I look is the reason someone might want to kill me. You face it every single day, and this is such a free-form version of racism that people never want to talk about, never want to acknowledge. But as an Asian woman, I don't get to ignore it. I don't have that privilege or ability. How do you get excited about being who you are when you're so afraid of it? Fetishization of Asian women is one of the most common, unspoken, and perpetuated versions of racism that exist in the United States and all across the world every single day. And sometimes, most of the time, it feels like the only people who are talking about it is other Asian women. I have had people tell me ahead of time not to be interested in a partner or interested in someone because they have a quote-unquote Asian fetish. And that's not to say that I want to be involved with that person. Of course, I do not. But that also is so demeaning to have someone tell you ahead of time, before you've encountered this person, before you've had any interaction, that the only reason they could be interested in you is because of your race. So when you tell someone, when you have the audacity to tell someone that the person who is romantically interested in them has an Asian fetish, it means that you do not think that there could be any other connection besides the fact that this individual has had a pattern of dating other women in the same genre or race. Being told that I am being fetishized is something that I have learned and experienced, and in some ways I think hurts me a lot more, because even without it being the person who has the fetish, it is all of these separate voices of people who claim to care about you saying that the only reason for being interested in me is because of my race. Asian women get told a lot by other people who is interested in them and why. And it's extremely frustrating because we already question whether or not someone genuinely likes us. So to have other people come up to us and tell us, hey, the only reason anyone could ever be interested in you is because you look like that, because you have that hair color, because your eyes are slanted, because your nose is flat, because your skin is brown. That is the only reason anyone ever could be attracted to you is so fucking rude. Absolutely not. Do not tell people that people have fetishes for them. They already know. We exist as real people. We don't need you to protect us. I have figured out that people are only interested in me because of the way I look. I have had people who are only interested in me because they think that it gives them access to my culture. I have had people who are only interested in me because of all the negative stereotypes that exist. Ones who think that I am going to be crazy in bed, ones who think that I am going to be the perfect wife, ones that think I am so smart that I am going to help them on their next assignment. I've had a lot of ulterior motives and reasons as to why people are interested in me, but I'm not stupid and I can figure out why pretty quick, as all Asian women are capable of. So, don't tell us that we are being fetishized. We know that. We are constantly being fetishized. Tell us when someone has good intentions. Tell us when someone sees us for us. Tell us when someone genuinely likes us as a person, personality, intellectually, emotionally, physically, etc. Tell us all of the reasons why we are more than our appearance. I know that I got fetishized. I know that all of my sisters and the women who look like me also get fetishized, and I know that we fill a huge fantasy for a lot of people, but just remember that your fantasy is dangerous and hurtful. Your fantasy is demeaning and gross. It's not flattering. It's not something that we want to hear about. It's not something you should be proud of. It is extremely degrading. So do not brag about it. Do not show off to others. Your fantasy is what keeps us from living to the fullest extent.
Fetishization has made me feel like less of a person. It's made me feel like I don't know who I am, or I don't have the privilege of defining who I am. It's made me feel like I'll never be more than a sexual object to people. It's really hurtful to feel so trapped in your own body. And there are times when I wish that I wasn't Asian. I wasn't an Asian woman, because it's scary. And how people have seen me has made, at one point it made me think of myself in those terrible terms, and it made me feel worthless, because I wasn't being seen as a person. It's made me feel uncomfortable with my own body. It's made me feel ashamed of my own body. Anyone who has ever been sexualized or objectified or fetishized against their will knows what it feels like to hate living in your skin for what it makes people treat you as or think of you as. It's become so normalized, and it's not a compliment, and it's not a joke, and we think it is. But it isn't. It makes myself and people like me feel unsafe. It makes us feel worthless. It makes us feel disgusting. And we have no control over that. We are not the ones fetishizing ourselves. And it's so frustrating that no one takes it seriously. Because Asian women are expected to be sexual, or it's so normalized that our bodies and who we are sexualized, it's like no one ever points it out as a real critical problem, and it is. Because we go through life being afraid, we go through life being ashamed, we go through life being uncertain about who we are, because other people want to make us something that we're not. And everyone else says that that's okay, and it's not. Fetishization is incredibly dehumanizing. It's depersonalizing. It's you are treated and seen as a thing, not a person. And that makes people think that they can do things to you. Makes people think that they don't have to respect you. It makes people think that they're allowed to hurt you or take advantage of you or even murder you. One of the hardest things was watching the Atlanta murders play out in the media, just that whole situation. The speculation that those women were prostitutes, the defense of a man who had a sexual fetish that led him to murder. It was like every negative thing I had ever heard or ever thought, ever feared people thought of me as an Asian woman. It was like it was all true. And our society was okay with us being treated like that or being seen like that. Our society was okay with the murder, the sexually motivated murder of Asian women because they were Asian women. And it was so scary. Because I think so many other Asian women saw that and remembered a time that they were made uncomfortable by someone's comments. I think so many Asian women thought that could have been me. I thought that. Because we know there are people out there, we've met people that don't value us for anything but a sexual nature. There are people who don't see us or treat us like humans.
It just hurts me too much, you know. It hurts me a lot, and it makes me feel unsafe in my own skin. It makes me feel unsafe in my own identity, and that is the saddest part about it, is because I don't think it's possible for me to be more proud of being Asian because I'm so proud of being Asian. But the fact that there are people out there who want to take away that pride scares me a lot. It scares me a lot. I am so sorry to my other Asian American women in particular who've had the experience of being fetishized. It is scary and it is traumatizing and it leaves a mark on you, and you're afraid to trust men, you're afraid to walk places alone, you're afraid to give out your social media to people, you're afraid to speak up because you just don't know who to trust, who to turn to. And I wanted to say that I'm here for you. The other Asian American women in our community are here for you, and we are here to advocate for you, and we care about your voice, and we believe that you have the power to change the world and to make a difference. And don't let anyone ever take that away from you. Because at the end of the day, people may say crappy things about you, and people may say, you know, you're not really this or you're not really that, but you know what you are, and that is a proud, strong, intelligent, capable, leading Asian woman. And I'm so proud of you and for the work that you're doing in your community and to better yourself and to learn more about yourself. And I unfortunately have had personal direct experience with being fetishized. As a freshman in college, I was stalked for several months by a white man who I later found out was stalking Asian women on campus and had been stalking Asian women. At the time he was a senior when I met him, but he had been stalking Asian women since his freshman year of college. However, the school that I was at, I am currently in Portland State, and I transferred from a different institution. But when I was a freshman, the school did nothing to stop him. They did nothing to take him out of places of responsibility because he was a part of the International Students Association on campus, and he did help to move in new freshman students. So he was given all of this power despite administration and other students knowing that he fetishized and stalks Asian women. And I was gaslit for about a year into not reporting him. I talked to Title IX, and the Title IX officer I met with was a white woman who told me that the school really couldn't do anything to stop him because he was a senior at the time, and that the most that they could do to protect me was quote unquote have a discussion with him. And to think back and realize that my security was in danger, and knowing that other Asian women on campus had also had the similar experience, yet even the so-called Title IX officer was not going to do anything proactive to stop him, to even have a discussion with him, was incredibly insulting. And today makes me even angrier to know that despite people's safety being at stake, they weren't going to press charges because he was a white man. And because he was a quote-unquote senior and I was a freshman, which has a lot of power dynamics in terms of misogyny, in terms of age, in terms of race. And so despite me talking, to the Title IX office and to people of responsibility, this boy not only found my social media accounts the day that I met him, which was my move-in day because he helped me move into my dorm, right? He found my social media accounts. He messaged me at inappropriate times, sometimes around 3 a.m. in the morning, and would say, come over to my room, let's have a drink. And at the time, I was not legally allowed to have a drink, right? So not only was that illegal, and he knew it was illegal, but he still did it and sent them at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? And he found out my schedule, so he would be waiting for me at dinner at times, which was very weird because I didn't have a very consistent schedule in terms of when I would go places freshman year, because I was still, exploring campus, making new friends. So somehow he found out my schedule. He knew where I was. He would come sit with me. He was a senior, I was a freshman. He would leave his senior friends, come sit right next to me at dinner and pester me all dinner. And I would say, this is making me uncomfortable. And he pretended that he'd never heard my complaints. And then when I did complain to other authorities on campus, again, nothing was done, despite me asking if I could press charges. And even at the time, people in my personal life were telling me that it wasn't worth it. And later I found out that one of the only reasons that I wasn't warned about him when I first came to campus, so when I first was moving in, was because I wasn't considered a Asian student, because at the time I was an Asian American student, but not a student coming to study abroad in Oregon, right? So, which is also a really interesting dynamic to think about, because I think that I wasn't told because I wasn't seen as Asian enough by a lot of the other women who had previously been stalked and fetishized by him, which at the end of the day is also very hurtful. That this person who stalked me and fetishized me worked in the government for international students at the school that I was at that time. He was given the keys to freshman dorms to help them move in, and he was given the responsibilities, despite him being reported numerous times to Title IX before, and the school doing nothing about it. Granted, I transferred, I'm at a totally different university, and one of the reasons I transferred was because they seemed never to care about BIPOC students at all. This is actually one of the only times I've talked about this publicly. I tweeted about it and talked a lot about it with my social media following, but I haven't actually given a talk, I guess you could say, which I almost feel like, I'm sorry, I'm in downtown, but I almost feel like that talking about this makes me feel stronger in a way, because it's letting some of that anger and some of that fear really being released into the universe, A lot of people, and today have still asked me, why did you just not block him from the start? Why did you not just, go ham on him or get angry? And the real reason is because I was fearing for my own safety. I was a freshman who had just been on campus for only a few months. I was afraid that if I blocked him, or if I reported him, or if I screamed, that he would hurt me or he would hurt one of my friends. And after my experience of being stalked, I continued to always be worried that he would be hiding behind bushes near my dorm, or that he would show up at certain events that I was invited to. And so many times, Asian women are not safe in places that they're told that they should be safe. And so many times do particularly white men take advantage of the fact that Asian women are not advocated for in discussions of sexual harassment, of, being in danger because of men. And I am speaking as an Asian woman because I also know that Asian men are fetishized, and this is my sole experience. So I can't speak for everyone, but It is a scary experience. It is one that I would never wish on anyone. And as a woman who hopes to have children one day, and my children are going to look like me, so they are going to be at least half Korean, right? I would never, ever tolerate fetishization or stalking of my children because they're Asian. I fear for my future children, in fact, that in some ways I'm like, I have said this since I was young, like since I was in like middle school, I will not raise my children in the United States. After I graduate next year from Portland State, I plan to move abroad for the rest of my life, because the way that Asian people are fetishized in this country is terrifying, is insulting, is angering, is sad, is scary. Because at the end of the day, to so many people, Asian women in particular, we're not seen as people. We're not seen as anyone with value. We're seen as objects that can be thrown around, that can be stalked, that can be verbally, mentally, physically like assaulted. And I don't feel safe in my own skin, you know, most of the time. And the truth is that being Asian, and especially being a Korean adoptee, is one of my greatest prides. It is something that I will talk about, that I will be loud, that I will be bold about. But also, being an Asian woman right now is terrifying. We're not seen as valuable. Like, Asian women are not seen as valuable. And so at the end of the day, it's Asian women and Asian people who have to advocate for ourselves. We need to stand up for ourselves, because I don't know if anyone else is going to do it.
People will come up to me and use ni hao as a pickup line. They'll call me Oriental. When I was working at an Asian restaurant, they would try to hit on me by making racist remarks about my culture, or ask me my ethnicity, but not even really care about the answer. When I was in middle school, 7th or 8th grade, so I was 12 or 13, I remember hearing someone refer to me as that really skinny Asian girl with the big boobs. I didn't even have a name. I was just my body and my ethnicity. When I was 15, someone asked me, I was hanging out with an older guy, just a couple years older, and unprompted he asked me, "Do you have a sideways vagina?" I had no idea what he meant, but he said Asian women have sideways vaginas. I felt so uncomfortable and so unsafe. I felt like my body wasn't even mine anymore in that sense. I felt so violated that someone made that comment about my body. And it made me realize that people thought of me in a certain way, in a very specific way. And that's how people saw me. They didn't see the other things. And I thought, am I just going to be seen like this for the rest of my life? Is this all my value is? When you are told or believed that you are inherently sexual, as Asian women are expected to be or stereotyped to be, people don't take you seriously when you are harassed, when you are assaulted, when you experience something like fetishization that makes you feel unsafe. People ignore that. And it's so harmful for everyone in our community. Fetishizing Asian women is wrong. Fetishizing anyone is wrong.
Whenever men try to hit on me by using like ni hao as a pickup line, or like trying to speak my language or ask what language I speak, or ask me where I'm from, makes me like really uncomfortable and makes me feel really icky. And for a while, it used to make me feel disgusted with myself. But then I realized I actually was really angry towards those people who treated me that way, and now I definitely feel angry when people try to fetishize me. It is a real problem, and that further perpetuating these stereotypes are harmful to women. It's what leads to the objectification, abuse, and murder of Asian women, like the Atlanta shooting. I also wish people knew more about it and knew how disgusting it feels, and that it is an experience that exists and it should stop being minimized and dismissed.
I typically avoid dating apps because I know that it's one of the easiest ways for people to minimize me as a person and base every bit of attraction solely on my looks. So I'm not on dating apps. I don't have the luxury of swiping right because I am so self-aware and so conscious of my race and my identity that I don't ever want to fool myself into thinking that I have a connection with someone because they were able to see photos of me without reading my bio, without trying to get to know me. I just fit into a filter, a category. I just came up in their search. I don't want to be something that someone can find with the right phrase or the key word. In every essence, in every sense, in every way, fetishization is racism. If you are to take away anything from this video, it should be the fact that fetishization of Asian women is racism. There's no debate, there's no flattery, there's no good intentions. You are being a racist asshole. No one takes it as a compliment when you tell them how much you enjoy their food. No one takes it as a compliment about when you tell them that their people are so wonderful. Fuck off, okay? You're being racist and you're making us uncomfortable. You're not winning any points. We don't need you to tell us about how strong and resilient our background, our heritage, our people are. We already know that. Go fuck yourself if you think for a second that fetishizing us is a compliment. And just know that it's not an excuse to murder multiple women. You're the sick one. You're the disgusting one. You're the depraved one. We are not your fantasies. We are not your toys. We are not your props. We are not your accessories. We are not your women. We are nothing to you. You do not own us. Fetishization is racism.
If there was like one sentence that I wish I could say to people who fetishize Asian women, if I hear you trying to like pick me up by saying konnichiwa one more time and you butcher it, I'm going to drop kick you to outer space. I swear to God.
I am not your Asian fetish, and that they can go fuck off.
Intent over impact. Because your intent may be to be flattering. Your intent may be to be protective of Asian culture and Asian people. Your intent may be to like be appreciating culture. But if your impact is that you're hurting, that you're scaring, that you're terrifying Asian people, that you are threatening Asian people, that you're stalking them, that you are finding their location and following them just because they're Asian and just because you want to use an Asian person to your advantage, you need to think about your own actions and you need to reevaluate them. Because it is inappropriate, it is scary, it is angering, and the last thing that I want as an Asian woman.
Fetishization is not a compliment. It is not a joke. It makes us feel unsafe. It is hurtful, it is disrespectful, and it is wrong.